Stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it! Touchdown Chargers! What a throw!
Hello, and welcome to another episode of ChargersCast. That hello sounded a little less enthusiastic than some previous ChargersCasts, and that's because we're coming off of a serious butt whooping with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But welcome to another episode of ChargersCast. I'm your host, Kirk Brewer, and ChargersCast is a podcast by fans for fans. So glad to have you with us. This week I am joined by ChargersCast friend to the podcast and friend of mine, Brennan Isham from Chargers District. This week, our guy from Bolt Casa, Andrew Loya, couldn't make it. So we're going to hold down the fort in his stead. Brennan, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty rough.
This is the first really serious spanking that we took, and we weren't ready for it. As fans, we weren't ready for it. And we talked about how good their offense was. And, you know, I'm a fan of Baker. He's scrappy, and he's been kicked around. And, you know, and he's a guy who's, when he's down, he's at his best. And so I root for guys like Baker. I really do, but not when they're playing us. And so instead of a cheers on this one, this is just this week we're drowning our sorrows again. But yeah, let's get into it. This podcast, we're going to be covering the Week 15 shellacking we just took from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then we will roll into the flexed game that got flexed. First flex in NFL history to flex to a Thursday night. Us versus the Donkeys. And this game takes on even more importance. And it's a short week, which I think is probably good for the Chargers to just get right back to business and not even dwell at all on the butt whooping they just took. So, 40-17. And we led at one point in the second quarter, we led 17-10. And then the game ended 40-17. So that score's pretty indicative of how the game went after we got a 17-10 lead. And normally in the pod, you know, I'm going to give you kind of my overall summary first, and then we'll kind of talk about it. But I'm shifting gears this week, and I'm going to let Brennan and he wasn't prepared for this. This is just totally off the cuff. So I'm going to let Brennan, I really want to hear his high-level kind of overview of this game, and then, you know, I'll come in and fill in any gaps that I have in my notes that he didn't talk about. But Brennan, what were your thoughts? I mean, before we got into the pod, we both talked about not watching like the second half of the game, or at least the fourth quarter, because it got so out of hand. But yeah, what do you got for me, man? What do you got for us?
Yeah, so to be completely honest, I had to rewatch the second half because I turned the game off and I was just watching the score every drive just go up and up and up. A little too rough, but my overview so far was, I feel like I sound like a broken record because I say it every podcast, but I think this would separate us from being first round exits to possibly Super Bowl champions is playing 4 quarters of football. This one especially. Actually, by the third quarter as well, we were still winning 17-13. So we still had the lead, and we had the ball in the coming into the second half. So if we scored, we would have been up roughly 10, 11 points. And it just went very downhill from there. Our offense, again, was very lackluster. They did not execute. I think that was the most 3-and-outs I've ever seen in a Chargers game. That was very brutal. And then our defense was definitely holding on to their own until everything just fell apart, and I don't think they were going to be able to come back from that. Baker's a really good QB, but what I saw from that defense wasn't too elite. I thought we could put way more points up on the board. I think our defense definitely could have stepped it up a little bit with Mike Evans, especially, I forgot his name, I think it's McMillan, but their rookie was kind of running all over us. And I won't get too much into details, but I think we did see some, more than any game of this season, I think we saw the holes that we desperately need to fill coming into that 2025 season, whether it's draft or free agency or even a trade. But there's multiple positions that we'll get into it that definitely need to be addressed.
Yeah, and we've touched on it in the last few pods in particular. We talked about it last week about, we've been talking about it for weeks actually as kind of the 2024 Chargers have taken shape. And it's like, yeah, we would like to have, especially on offense, we would like to have 4 quarters of football. They've played 1 quarter here, 2 quarters there, a half here, a half there, but they haven't put together 4 quarters. And then if you recall, wrapping up last week, yes, you were a broken record again. We need 4 quarters out of them. And if you remember, I'm like, look, I'll take 3. I think we can win if we get 3 out of them, okay, out of the offense, with our defense being characteristically who our defense is. But this week was an anomaly we haven't seen this season. This was a good old-fashioned butt kicking. And it was really interesting how this game evolved, okay? They won the coin toss. They accepted the ball. They wanted to start with their offense. They marched right down the field and scored a touchdown, and I went, oh, okay. We take the kickoff. We go down. Thank God Ladd was back because we used Ladd extensively, especially on that first drive. And we march down and we score a touchdown, 7-7. We kick off to them. They march down, but we stop them, and they kick a field goal. And I'm like, okay, there's our D. Okay, we let them get 1. But our D is punts and field goals. We don't let these guys put touchdown after touchdown on the board on us this season. We haven't been. And so they kick off to us. We march down. We get a field goal, 10-10, right? And then our defense steps up. Tarheeb gets another just sweet, clean, jumps a route pick, right? And we're sitting at the 30, and we score a touchdown at 17-10. I'm like, all right, this is the direction I want to see this game go. They got a little on us early, but great. So we kick off to them. Guess what? We get a fumble. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Joey strips the ball and Molden falls on it. Like, yeah, that's it, like midfield. We don't do crap with that one. We don't get a first down. We had like 5 plays, but there were a couple penalties, right? So it was kind of a cluster, and we punt. They go down and kick that field goal, right? So now it's 17-13, and we end up getting the ball back, punt one more time. But bottom line is that's how we go into the half, and we're getting the ball to start the second half. So I'm still kind of optimistic. I'm like, okay, but this is critical. We need to go down and we need to score. We don't do crap. And so basically this is my overview that I had in my notes. Is it was after that fumble, we offensively non-existent the rest of the game. We couldn't get any rhythm. We were 0 for 6 on 3rd down conversions, 0 for 2 on 4th down conversions. And I didn't notice it in the tail end of the first half, but I definitely noticed it all of the second half. Todd Bowles blitzed us. If not every single play, I'd have to go back and look. It was probably 70 to 80% he was blitzing us. And I can't blame him. Our interior offensive line is an absolute liability. It's been exposed, and he took advantage of it, and Justin was running for his life. He only got sacked 3 times, but he had pressure in his face all day. And then he got one of the sacks. I think it was one of the sacks where he got his left ankle tweaked again. So now he's hobbling. And then they just came after him even more. Now he was hobbling. So it was one of those things. Our offense didn't keep pace. The responsibility fell back to the defense. And unlike normal, where the defense holds their ground, offensively, this was consistent with our past poor offensive performance, right? We basically put together a quarter and a half of good offense, got 17 points, and then nothing the rest of the game. Our defense usually keeps these games tight, and we would have lost that game like we did to KC, 19-17 or 21-17. Our defense uncharacteristically, they could not stop these guys. There was poor tackling, like that 57-yarder. Tarheeb went to knock with his shoulder Mike Evans out of bounds. Mike Evans, a big dude. He just shrugged Tarheeb off and ran 57 yards for a touch. The one, what was his last name? Is it Irving, the running back?
Yeah.
He got a 54-yarder on us. He just popped it out and just boom. Poor tackling, poor angles, poor gap responsibility. It was just totally uncharacteristic for our defense. I mean, it was a good old-fashioned butt whooping. We got our butts whooped in every aspect of that game. And you notice their kicker. Their kicker kept kicking it to where we had to run it back. And I think with one exception, they kept double the 25-yard line or less. So we couldn't even just take a knee and get it to 30. I mean, it was just that kind of game.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. Todd Bowles actually blitzed us 63% on dropbacks, which is an insane percentage. I think he really exposed us in that matter. And one thing I wanted to highlight with it wasn't the whole offensive line. Our tackles were still brick walls. If all the Charger fans noticed, me and Kirk were talking this a little before the pod, it was, and he said this during the pod, it was down the middle every single time where he was getting pressured. And that goes with our guards and our center. So I think that's something we definitely have to address. And I definitely agree with you on the defense. We only got one sack, and it was from Troy Dye, our backup linebacker. So that just shows you. I actually heard something from the commentators. All of those offensive linemen protecting Baker, a bunch of 6'3", 300-pound dudes. Yeah. And I definitely think they didn't expose, but they showed that our defensive line is human. So sometimes we're going to have those performances. And yeah, our defense was very uncharacteristic. Couple stats. We allowed 223 total rushing yards, which is an absurd amount in a football game. Their rookie, Bucky Irvin, this was his second game getting 100-plus yards. He is great, but we're in week 16 now, and never would I thought of one of the best defenses would give a rookie 100-plus yards, especially a 55, 54-yard burst. And Baker had 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So that was very, very lackluster for our defense. However, Troy Dye, 5 tackles, 4 assists, 1 sack. He took over for Denzel. I think we're still missing Denzel a lot, but at least he was able to pick up the pace. And then another guy, Tarheeb Still, I just saw the fact that he is ranked 3rd for Defensive Rookie of the Year right now. If he keeps it up, he has a real shot. He has the 3rd best odds. And he got 5 tackles, he got 4 tackles and 1 interception. So I think he's still picking up the pace of becoming a good cornerback. But, yeah, it was definitely rough for our defense, and I'll get into the offense a little more after I hear some of your insight.
Yeah, well, I wish Tarheeb had 5 tackles instead of 4.
Yeah.
I really wish he had wrapped up Mike Evans because he was right along the sidelines. Just don't do this, do this. Get your arms around the guy. Tarheeb's actually, he's a really good tackler. That was a mental error more than anything, I think. So yeah, I wish he had 5 tackles. And the fact that he's a 5th rounder and he's even remotely even mentioned as Defensive Rookie of the Year is insanely awesome. It's a shame Cam was back, and then he had that one pass breakup. It was he and Molden, and he came down and hit his head on the ground, and so he was out the rest of the game with a concussion. We'll talk more about that at the end of the pod where we talk about the roster and stuff. But yeah, just to kind of piggyback real quick off of you were throwing some really meaningful stats out about this game. Our defense allowed 506 yards of total offense to Baker and the Bucs. Okay. And you called it was 223 of that was rushing, which is just stupid. Okay. And I heard the post game in the locker room with Khalil Mack. He's like, oh, that's just disrespectful. That's disrespecting the game, not for them, for us, that we let them do that. We are disrespecting the game by allowing 223 yards against this defense. He was not happy about that at all. He's like, look, that's an attitude thing. Okay. That's a want to thing. That shouldn't happen because you should always want to make those tackles. But they out-physicaled us. This was one of those. And in fact, Baker in a post-game said that. He's like, the Chargers, they pride themselves on being physical, and we flipped the script on them, he said. We flipped the script on them, and we beat them at their own game. And they sure in the hell did. 223 rushing yards. We haven't seen that since games 1 and 2 for us, right? When JK went off those first 2 weeks. And by the way, we are missing JK big time, keeping defenses honest so that they can't tee off on our weak interior offensive line. But that was the most yards we gave up all season, 506, and it was the most points we've given up all season, a 40-burger, okay? So this was just an all-around, old-fashioned butt kicking. We got outscored 30-0 after we went up 17-10. We got outscored the rest of the game 30-0. We got blanked. There's nothing good you can say about that. And it falls really on 2 responsibilities, offensively getting blanked. And I don't want to put it on Greg Roman. He's calling plays, but he is the offensive coordinator, so he's kind of like in charge of that. So he has to take some of that responsibility, but he cannot play the game. Okay, the players got to play the game, and our interior offensive line has become a massive, massive liability, and we're seeing it. We are missing JK. Huge. We're missing JK. He can block. I mean, he's a 3-down back. Okay, you never have to take him out of the game if you don't want to, because he can block. He's good at blitz pickups, but his vision and his agility and his cuts, the rest of the guys on the roster don't have his skill set, period. And it's not a slight on them. He's really good. Okay, I never knew how good this kid was until he was playing with lightning bolts on, because I didn't get to see a lot of him in Baltimore. Okay, he had like a really good rookie season, and he was hurt all the time after that. JK, we're missing JK big time. Yeah, let's see if I got any other really offensive notes other than welcome back, Ladd. Really good to have Ladd back, and it looked like he made it out of the game good too. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. So both of our running backs had a total of 32 rushing yards and 0 touchdowns. That's probably the worst running back performance for the Chargers I have seen in a very, very, very long time. It shows we're missing JK. Personally, for me, this might be a hot take, but Gus Edwards is a lethal red zone back. I believe that we shouldn't use him anytime else, but the red zone, it shows here. He's trying to go right up the middle and truck these guys, and it's just simply not working. He was an RB2 for a reason, so that we can't expect too much from him getting some 100-yard plus games. Kamani Vidal, he's going to be a good, decent running back for us, but he's still a rookie, and you can see he's having a little bit of a hard time, so he just has to work on it. And as far as our offense as well, yeah, Ladd, 5 receptions, 58 yards, 11.6 average and a touchdown. So we've definitely missed him. He kept it up. And I could be wrong on this, but I feel like every time QJ scores, we lose. Like on the
I don't think that's true, but I understand where you're kind of coming from. Yeah.
On the Panthers and Browns, we beat them, but he scored against the Chiefs, the Steelers, and he's also scored against the Bucs, and we lost all those games. So it's not true, but it definitely seems like that. I'm like, every time QJ's
You're
having a
getting
good
to be
game,
like me with the Navy Blues, dude. I'm getting superstitious or something.
Yeah, it seems like every time he scores and has a good game, he had 45 yards, a touchdown, and 5 receptions. Definitely better than what he would have done last year, and that touchdown was beautiful. He easily could have just went out or got tackled or went down, and he put them in a little bit of a spin cycle, went for that touchdown. But it came to my mind. I'm like, I feel like every time he has a great game, it's like we never can win. But other than him, I'm just going to end the offense off on J. Herb, 21 for 33, 195, 2 TDs. He broke his record for the least amount of interceptions thrown because he threw that interception, kind of just lofted it up, and he kind of just went in his hands. But I think we're finding a good tight end. Stone Smart, again, with some nice catches, went up for a couple of them. He had 5 receptions, 50 yards. He had the second most receiving yards on our core, and it was 10 yards average. So I think he's becoming a good tight end for us, and I think if Justin keeps feeding him the ball, we'll see some good things.
Yeah, and one of those catches you're referring to was a really good grab, too. It was one of those where if he had missed it, you would have went, okay, that was a tough catch, but he caught it. And then there's another one, Justin just missed him, and we needed that one, too. That would have been a 3rd down conversion. Justin was under pressure all day. And you could tell, okay, Justin was getting into that duck and chuck mode or chuck and duck mode, where he's like, man, it's coming. I know it's coming. My guys can't stop him. And he's looking early, and that's how he got that interception. He wouldn't have thrown that interception. This is an observation of mine this whole season, which is the difference between Justin not throwing interceptions this season and previous seasons where he would, is his protection and Harbaugh coaching him up. Well, this game just reinforced that when Justin's under pressure, and he said it after the game, he's like, man, I probably should have just thrown that one away, right? But he was just trying to make something happen because nothing was happening, and he just threw that thing up. That was a friggin' prayer. Nobody was open. He was going backwards when he threw it. He had pressure all in his face all day. There's not a whole lot that we can really go on about this game. It was just a good old-fashioned butt whipping. We definitely missed Denzel Perryman, his enforcer nature in the middle. We're missing that. I love Deion Henley. I think he's going to be a stud for us for years to come, but he can't do it all. And Colson's still a rook for all of his, and he's been dealing with injuries all season. So I don't think we're, going to know what he's all about until he gets another season under his belt. Come in camp next season and start the season healthy and all that good stuff. And Dye is who he is, right? There's a reason he is who he is. He's good as a role player, but as an every down guy, there's a reason he is who he is, right? So, I don't know how much more we can go on about this. Just to say, I think kind of grateful, and I think the players probably are too, that this is a short week. So they don't have time to sit and cry in their milk or whatever the saying is. They don't have time to dwell on this loss and go, oh man, if I had done that and I had done that, man, we got our butts kicked. No, you got a short turnaround on a Thursday night. The only thing in our favor for this quick turnaround, and I mean probably the only friggin' thing when we start talking about this Denver game, is that it's a home game. So we're not traveling. But other than that, I don't know too many positives going into this. I'm not feeling it anyway after this butt kicking. I'm not feeling too many positives going into this Denver game. Okay. Baltimore's now sitting up, in the fifth seed. Denver's now ahead of us. They're 9-5 and we're 8-6, which just hurts even worse. It's like salt in the wound, right? And so this game between us and Denver is really important. Now, let's keep this in perspective here, okay? I think the Chargers could go 1-3 these last 4 games, and we already took the first loss, okay? So these last 4 games, I think mathematically we could go 1-3, and we still get the 7th seed because the next group of guys in the AFC below us, they're so far behind that I think they're like 4 games out, right? So if we could lose 3, we're good. And I figured at least we're going to split these 2-2, considering we got the Patriots and the Raiders to wrap up, the season. But we don't want to come to that, right? We want to beat Denver, and it's a home game. We already beat them in their house. We want to beat them, so we have to head-to-head with these knuckleheads. But you got anything to wrap up with this Tampa Bay game? I mean, I would like, I kind of want to be one of the players and just go, okay, we'll just chalk that one up and kind of move on and say that's not us, at least on the defensive side.
Yeah, I'm seeing everywhere. It's funny because we have a lot of loyal fans, and kind of what I just wanted to say was you're going to have some of these games. I challenge someone to name a team in the NFL that has not lost by that much in any season in NFL history. That's 0. You're going to have these types of games. Geez, I mean, a couple years ago, we got blown out by the Patriots and Cam Newton. This is the Bucks and Baker Mayfield. So they have the number 3 overall offense. Their defense stepped it up. Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator. We can't be too down on ourselves because it's one game. I know it's getting close to playoffs, but we're going to be okay, Bolt fam. I promise you it's going to be okay. And just one last thing was the playoff picture real quick. It is the Colts and the Dolphins. They are both, I believe, 2 games behind us. However, if we just beat the Raiders and the Patriots, I still think we're going to be able to get in because no matter if they win, if we keep winning, they're not going to be able to catch up. The Dolphins, I saw on playoff bracket, we have to lose out, and they have to win every single game. And the Colts, same exact thing. So all you guys thinking we might not make playoffs, it's gonna be all right. And we have to realize, whole new coaching staff, new coaches, new head coach, new offensive and defensive coordinator, half the roster's new. It's still a rebuild season. I think people were just getting a little ahead of themselves because we exceeded expectations. But that's what Harbaugh's going to do. He's going to build it up a couple years, and then we're going to make our big run. I think we just showed what we can bring to the table. So no matter what, I think this was a successful season, and I still think that this Bucs game definitely hurt, but we shouldn't be dwelling on it too much longer.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I hope you guys out there do too. Yeah, the Chiefs got shellacked. Was it last season by the Raiders? They got shellacked. Even the Patriots dynasty, the Tom Brady Patriots, they had a couple stinkers, man, where they just got their butts kicked. It happens to the best of them. I mean, it does. Now, we're not claiming that we're the best by any stretch of the imagination. We are still a work in progress. And as Brendan said, kind of reiterating what I've kind of been talking here the last few podcasts. Look, let's just be realistic. At this stage, we know who this Chargers team is. They're not magically going to become something else. And so this is an off game for a defense that has consistently held us and kept us in games, kept teams to punts and field goals, and limited the amount of touchdowns. By the way, we are now tied for first in scoring defense with the Broncos and Philadelphia. So now we're tied for first. We're still in first, but we're now tied for first at like 17.1 points a game or something like that. Okay, so that 40 burger hurt bad, but I think our boys have a lot of pride and they can recover from that. But we are overperforming this season. Okay, I'm absolutely convinced that this roster, with the holes that it has, okay, Joe Ortiz and Harbaugh, there's no way they were going to be able to remake this entire roster to be Super Bowl caliber in one season. But look what they've been able to do in one season, to flip a 5-12 to potentially 13 and what would that be? What's the math on it? 13 and my math is failing me.
I think it would be about 13 and
12 and 5 or 11 and 6, right? Yeah. So we could still be like an 11 and 16, right? Because we just took this last loss. So that's a hell of a turnaround if we do win out. And those last two games are very winnable. The Donkeys, this is going to be a test for us. They're playing a lot better football than we saw them last time. But we are overperforming. And guess what? We're projected to have 78 million in cap space next season. And we've seen what Ortiz is capable of. He's got a really good eye. He's got a really good eye for talent. I mean, bringing Cam and Tarheeb in the 5th round, I mean, come on, man. Seriously. And so I'm very optimistic that we are going to fill out 2, if not all 3. Number 77 over there at left guard, Zion, his job might be in jeopardy. Okay, I mean, it may be in jeopardy come this off season. They're at least going to fill 2 of those 3 interior offensive line positions. I don't care if it's in the 5th round again, because a lot of the best offensive linemen, actually, the overwhelming majority come from the later rounds. They're not all first-round picks. It's just that left tackle position tends to be that magic position. But your interior guys, they come from all rounds. It's just a matter of spotting the right talent. And Ortiz and Harbaugh know exactly what they want. So keep our heads up. This is like, if you're a gambler, we're playing with house money right now. Is the way I look at this, even though that game hurt really bad as a fan. And I was tempted to turn it off, even though I watched the whole thing. Brennan turned it off, and probably a lot of you guys turned it off too. And you're probably cussing the whole time. But we're playing with house money right now. And the odds are still 87% that we are going to make it as a wild card team. And once you're in the big dance, you never know what could happen. You just never know what could happen. But if we are the last seed, we talked about this last pod, then guess who we're going to get to see in round 2 of the playoffs if were able to win the wild card game? We get to see the Chiefs for the 3rd time this season, and I like our odds, even with our shortcomings. I like our odds. So let's go ahead and move on to Donkey Week. They won this week. against the Colts. It was not pretty. Okay, they're now 9-5, but this was not a pretty game. In fact, if it wasn't for their special teams scoring and their defense scoring, they would have won this game. Okay, their offense kind of put up a stinker too. So they're gettable. This is a winnable game for us, but not if we play like we played last week. Okay, so just to kind of give you some overview on the Donkeys. Offense, 22nd ranked offense at 311 yards per game. 23rd in passing, 20th in rushing. Okay, so they're not a high-powered offense, but I think they outrank us in all those categories. Okay, so they are a couple notches higher than us in all those categories. And they're averaging 24 points per game, which is 10th, which is kind of weird. They're 22nd in yards, but they're 10th in points. So what that tells me is when they get into the red zone, they're pretty effective at putting points up. Okay. Defensively, they're ranked 8th. So here we go again. Another good defense. 315 yards allowed per game, 15th against the pass, 5th against the run. Okay. And they're allowing 17.6. So that's what it is, 17.6. 17.6 points per game, tied for first with us and the Eagles. So we need this game. It's not the end of the world if we don't get it, but this is a big one. This is a big one because we'll be tied again with them if we win, and we'll have won both matchups with them, which gives us the head-to-head. So big game, short week at home.
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't too nervous about this game until I started doing my deep dive and my research, and it's going to be a totally different game than the first game, in my opinion. Bo Nix has gotten better. A couple things I just wanted to put in. I'm probably going to repeat a couple of what you said, but they are 22nd, like you said, in total yards. We are 27th. They're 9th in turnovers. They lead the league in sacks at 49 sacks. That's what's going to be the deciding factor in this game. If they learn from Todd Bowles and they say, let's blitz the crap out of them down the middle, even on the edges, they're going to get us, and it's going to be a rough game for Herbert, especially since you did see Herbert's mobility gone again, like the first quarter of the season. So he's not going to be as mobile. Nick Bonito is tied for 3rd in sacks at 11.5. So they're deep, and they got Patrick Surtain on as a cornerback, probably one of the best. And I really, really think it's going to be a tough game for our offense, but I think they're going to learn. I think they have the worst taste in their mouths, and they do not want to repeat that. And so I think it's going to be a way closer game than it was. They are on a 4-game win streak. However, I did want to mention that game, like you said, if it wasn't for Jonathan Taylor. If it wasn't for Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball at the 1-yard line and acting like he got the touchdown, that would have been a completely different game. I actually watched the highlights of that game, and they were going to lose that game if the Colts didn't make any huge mistakes. And unfortunately, they made some huge mistakes. And I think if we even execute, like you said, just 3 quarters of football, I think we're going to be able to have a really good chance of winning. And personally, I don't think this means too much, but they do have us as a 3-point favorite against the Broncos.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this game for me, it comes down to some really, really simple stuff. Okay. And you touched on it there. In my offensive keys to the game, you're going to love this. And we actually talked a little bit what you were talking about before the pod. I was saying, if I was Vance Josephs, I would blitz us every play until we prove we can either beat it or stop it. I would blitz our interior offensive line nonstop. Nonstop. I mean, we've proven that's our Achilles heel. And football, there's no, participation trophies. I would absolutely just blitz the living daylights out of those guys until we prove we can stop it. Okay, go with 6 offensive linemen and 2 tight ends. Go with, 13 personnel. Do what you need to do. But until we prove we can stop the damn thing, Vance Joseph's probably going to come in here and try and kick our ass and get physical. And I don't blame him. But Brennan, I've got one offensive key to the game. Serious. It says block. Block. That's it. Just block. Okay. And that means everything. It means protect Justin so he doesn't get killed. Okay. And he has a little bit of time, just a little bit of time to throw the ball. It means give our running backs a few little holes. Okay. We activated Jarrett Patterson a couple games back. I hadn't seen him be activated these last 2 games, but a couple games back, we activated him. I think it was the game after JK went down. We activated him. I don't think he got any carries, or we brought him up from the practice squad. I don't know if he was activated, but we brought him up from the practice squad. Maybe activate him and actually give him a few carries. But he's very capable. I like the kid. We just had a group at that where there was too many bodies and not enough spots. But with JK down, maybe bring him up and give him some carries. But block for Justin, block for the running backs. Just block. Just block. Football's not that difficult. Justin will do his job if you give him time to do his job. And I will note, Patrick Surtain. We may not be facing Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain hurt his ankle in the Colts game. He went back in with his sprained ankle and hurt it even worse and ended up going out before the game was over completely. So on a short week, it's possible we may not be going up against Patrick Surtain III.
I did see, I hate to burst your bubble, but I did see he was a full participant in today's practice. However, with that being said, who's not to say he re-injures it? I'm not preying on his injury because no one would want to, but it's a liable part of his body at this point now. It's not going to get 100% better in 12 hours is all I'm saying. So he could re-injure it, and like I said, you hate to see that, but if he does, that will help us out a lot. Sounds awful, but it will help us out a lot. And I think you said it perfect, and Jim Harbaugh always says this as well. We see great things happen if you give Justin Herbert time. Just give him one more extra second of time, and even with the weapons we have, we're going to be able to do something. This might be a biased opinion, but QJ is still top 10, maybe even top 5 for touchdowns this season. He proves he can be an end zone threat. He tends to get wide open in the end zone more than most of our receivers. Ladd McConkey, nothing to be said there, just a total beast. And I like the idea of that Jarrett Patterson thing. I think we have nothing to – until JK comes back, I think we have nothing to lose in the RB room. Might as well switch it up. Put Hassan Haskins in it. He has a touchdown. He has one less touchdown than Gus Edwards. Yeah, so –
Haskins fumbled last time. Last week, his first carry he fumbled, and I don't think they gave him the ball the rest of the game.
Yeah, I feel like we have nothing to lose at this point because I didn't watch the rest of the game and I wanted to see who it was, but we fumbled as well. I don't know if it was an RB or a wide receiver, but I'm pretty sure we fumbled it, and they were at our like 30-yard line. It was at the end of the fourth quarter. With that being said, I think there's nothing to lose when it comes to switching the RBs. I know it sucks, but with that underperformance, it's pro football. You're going to have to step it up if you want your starting position. And yeah, I think that's enough said with the RB room and everything. We will get into this a little more, but we do have some key injuries that did not practice or were limited. So hopefully we can get those guys healthy by Thursday.
Yeah. The only other things I had on offense is kind of side notes, because everything's going to be based off if we can block or not, right? If you can't block, then the game's over before it even begins. But if our boys pull it together and do what they need to do to shore up the line, then we also need to at least convert on 50% of our third downs and don't turn the ball over. And as you were saying, Denver's like tops in the league with turnovers, right? So, or they're up there near the top. So we don't tend to turn the ball over, which is a hallmark of Harbaugh teams. We don't tend to turn the ball over very often. So keep that up. Don't turn it over. Don't give them any extra shots. Okay. And we didn't convert. We were 0 for 6 in third downs this week. And that's been a problem for us. Our offense has been a problem all season. Okay. And that's been one of the things where we haven't put together 4 full quarters. It's been a quarter here, a quarter there, a half here, but sometimes it's first half, other times it's second half, but it's not like consistent. There's no consistency. Their consistency has been inconsistency, like I said last week. And the other inconsistency is their third down conversions are crap. We have not been converting, and it's reflective of having those bad quarters. When we're on fire, when we're actually playing well, we're converting. But we haven't played full 4 quarters. So you go look at any game, our third down conversions are garbage, with very few exceptions. Now, we've had a few games where we didn't have too many of them because we're clicking and we're converting on, we're getting first downs on first down and first downs on second down. So we don't have a third down conversion. But yeah, just block. Okay, just block. And defense, I don't even want to belabor this performance by the defense. You guys get back to doing what you do. Okay, let's not overthink this. You guys go back to doing what you do, and hopefully we get Perryman back in the middle of our D. I can't overstate, I think, how important we have seen his presence is in the middle of our D. And thank God we've got Tier Tart and even more so Puna Ford. Those guys have been balling. Love those guys. And Foxy's, man, he's just a lunch pail, blue-collar guy. He's the kind of guy, he's kind of like Damian Square. I don't know if you remember Damian Square. I loved Damian Square. And every season we'd sign him on a 1-year deal, and then he'd be a free agent in the offseason. And we wouldn't turn around and re-sign him. We'd let him sit out there in free agency till almost training camp, and then we'd sign him. It's like, dude, the guy doesn't want $10 million a year. I mean, he probably would want $10 million a year, but he knows he's not going to get $10 million a year. Just lock the guy up. He's going to bring his freaking lunch pail and his hard hat, and he's going to go to work. Same with Foxy, man. Lock Foxy up. He's good for morale too. I love those guys a ton. So just get back to just do what you guys do. Shrug this one off, chalk it up, move on. Keep Bo Nix in the pocket. Okay, we found out that guy can run last game. So put a lot of pressure on him, but not so much that you let him get out of the pocket. Keep him in the pocket, keep pressure on him. He'll throw us the ball, and get him off the friggin' field on third down. Get him off the field. Nothing super fancy. Just do what you guys have been doing and pray to God our offensive line can block for Justin and our running backs. I mean, if he does, we've got the skill. Okay, they're not all total studs, going to all be in the Pro Bowl, but they've got the skill if our blockers can do their job.
Yeah, I think you actually brought up something very important, and we saw it a lot last game. when we give them pressure and we're almost about to sack them, I feel like every single time they are able, whichever quarterback it is, if they have legs, they're going to pick up a couple yards. I don't know if it's a different scheme we have to run. I don't know if it's just we need to sack him. But every single time there's...
Dayon be a spy.
Yep, there's one person, usually Dayon, like you said, having to sprint across the field to try to make the tackle because he has a wide open lane to pick up 10 to 15 yards. So as long as, even if we sometimes do not keep him in the pocket, I think it's going to be a crucial thing to have as tracking him down before he passes that line of scrimmage and not letting him just break ankles and run down the field. Because if we can contain him on the whole side behind the line of scrimmage, I think it's going to be much better. Bo Nix is good, but he's just like Baker in the sense he, with his yards and his touchdowns and his stats, comes turnovers. So if we can keep him in the pocket with our defense, I think we're going to be able to get a good amount of interceptions, get a good amount of turnovers, or at least pass breakups to get him to get all in his head. If we do that, I think it will be a pretty good game for us.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes pressure's better than sacks.
Yeah.
It really is. If you've got an immobile quarterback, an immobile, meaning not mobile, then yeah, just pin your ears back and go like a bat out of hell. But in today's NFL, most quarterbacks are decently mobile. They're not Phillip Rivers, and so, or Tom Brady for that matter. So you have to be mindful of leaving gaps, especially up the middle, where they can step up in the pocket and then get a lane. I mean, Baker had one on us that was, again, it was one of those stupid backbreakers where if we got him, we were gonna get him off the field, but instead he scrambled for 12 yards, 18 yards, something stupid, and it's like, okay, new set of downs, and I mean, they scored way too many times on us. We did not get them off the field, and so yeah, it's. Make sure you have containment first. Sack second. Get containment first. Make them feel the heat. You can always jump up and bat the ball down, all that good stuff. I'm not a coach, so I don't want to pretend like I know better than their coaches. But we see it week in and week out as fans. You let these guys escape the pocket, so contain the guy. We found out he's got legs and he can run. So. Want to wrap up this game? I think that's pretty much all I got, and I do hope I'm not afraid to say it. I do hope Patrick Surtain is hurt, and I do hope he doesn't play in this game.
Yeah, just one other thing. As of recently, they're on their 4-game win streak. They're playing a lot of the similar teams that we played, like they played the Falcons. However, they did play the Colts and a couple other teams that do not have as good defenses at us. It's not like we're playing a team like the Vikings where they have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and a couple other killers. Even the Bucs with McMillan and Mike Evans, obviously, and a couple great running backs. They have Cortland Sutton and Javon Williams. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's pretty much it. Not to say that other players aren't going to step up, but when I think of the Broncos offense, those are the only two that pop up in my head, and I think if we can contain those guys, I think it's going to be a pretty good game. They're going to be running into a really hard defense, just like we're going to be running into their hard defense, but we're neck and neck with defenses, and I think Bo Nix is still going to have a hard time trying to maneuver because he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. He's only played 14-ish pro games, so he's going to make those rookie mistakes. And I think that deciding factor is Justin Herbert's veteran aspect, and with a couple better weapons that we have, we're going to be able to take this game away.
Well, I hope so. The one thing I will mention, and I know you're already aware of this, but Bo Nix played the most games in college football history. He had like a 6-year college career because of the whole COVID and then like red shirt upon red shirt. I forget what it was, but these guys were able to play longer, redeclare, whatever the heck it was. I don't remember the terminology because I don't follow college ball all that close. But he has most college games in his more than anybody. Between where was he at? Was it Auburn and then Oregon?
Yep.
So the guy's experienced. He's very experienced for a young guy. He's got a lot of ball under his belt. Now, the pro game's a whole different game. We hear it all the time, how different it is. But there's some guys that just walk right into the pro game and they just adapt to it like a fish in water. And I don't say he's that guy, but you can also see his experience. It's shown as a rookie. He's got some moxie. He's got some experience. The game doesn't seem that fast to him in what I've seen so far. It seems like he's processing things pretty damn good for a rook. But then again, when Justin came in as a rook, he was like an Einstein. He was processing things like crazy. He had an insane rookie season when what's his name went down when he got the needle in his lung. So
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod, yeah. He's backing up what, Rodgers now?
I think so.
Yeah, I always liked Tyrod, but man, Justin came in and he was insanely good rookie. So kudos to Nix. This isn't going to be a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. Let's go ahead and jump into the roster a little bit, talk about injuries, things like that. Let's go ahead and start with Dobbins. Okay, this was the third game he's been out. So this game against the Donkeys is the minimum fourth game because they put him on IR. This is a minimum fourth game where he could come back after this game if they designate and do all the stuff that they need to do and open a 21-day window, practice window, all that good stuff. So fingers crossed, maybe we do get JK back for the kind of the home stretch here. Cam Hart, as far as new injuries go, he had been out a couple games with concussion, and I believe it was an ankle, and he sustained another concussion when he was double coverage with Moulton on Evans, I think it was. They did a good job. It was near the goal line, stopped him from getting the ball, but Cam came down, hit his head on the turf, and so he sustained a concussion. Disley's still out. I don't know if you heard anything on Disley yet. By the way, Herbert's re-injured, but I fully suspect he'll play. But he's going to be gimpy. And we know what gimpy Herbert was at the beginning of the season. He's not as good as full healthy Herbert, who his legs can be a weapon. He's not the same quarterback when he's stuck in the pocket, especially when our guards in the center can't freaking block, okay? That's like you're sitting there, you're like a sitting duck at that point when your pressure's coming right up the middle at you and you can't plant and move because your ankle's jacked. So we'll see how that, and it's a short week. So I think he's just helping. He may not practice at all this week. He may just have his ankle rehab, get treatment, and stay off of it. He may even put it in a boot just to try and heal up as much as he possibly can before Thursday night. Perryman, I think Perryman's been out practicing. So fingers crossed we get his butt back in the lineup. Now would be a really good time for that. And then the last note I got here as far as injuries, positions, is Asante Samuel. I have not heard squat about Asante coming back, his injury, his status. But a week or so ago, and I don't know if you saw this, Brennan, he had kind of an odd Instagram post. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I didn't know what to make of it. There was no caption of significance with it. I think it was a very kind of cryptic caption, but it left me thinking he was coming back. Like he was like ready to come back. But I still haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about him. I did see that as well. I actually, in fact, thought the opposite. I thought
That's how cryptic it was.
Yeah, and I just feel like out of millions and millions of songs, you're picking a song that's singing about, like, I'm almost positive it was saying stuff about, like, pretty much not putting faith in him and not being able to be like, hey, we're still full on board for you to be our CB1, pretty much. Saying, like, obviously the song didn't say that, but in the same manner, that's what it correlated to. Injuries-wise, though, I wrote down the injury report for today, and it was Will Dissly, Christian Fulton, Cam Hart, Herbo, QJ, which hopefully he can be in. He did not practice, so I don't know if it's a precautionary thing, but he didn't practice. Elijah Molden also didn't. He was down after that play too with Cam Hart, and he was on all fours for a minute. He was just able to toughen it up and walk out. It's his knee. He also did not practice, so hopefully he can be in, because our safeties are going to be looking pretty slim without him not in. And obviously Denzel. So I assume most of these guys are going to play, even if it's a short week. I think they didn't practice on purpose because it is a short week, and they know, like you said, for Herbert, might as well not even practice at this point. It's week 15. They got all the reps they can, especially these guys specifically. Practice always helps, but if you practice and you don't play, or you can sit out for a couple practices and play, it's the obvious answer. Just might as well sit and then play. But as far as JK goes, I am pretty optimistic, because I don't know if I heard it from a different podcast or if you, Andrew, said it last podcast, but I'm pretty sure it was a precautionary IR, knowing that with his injuries, might as well just put him on for next couple games and see what happens. Hopefully he can come back. And people don't realize that during that game, when he went out, he came back out on the field and started running laps, or started running back and forth. If he was super, super injured and not being able to play the rest of the season, it'd be a totally different narrative. He would already be down. He'd be down on the field. He'd be already in the medical tent. It'd be all that stuff. But all the signs during that game showed that there's a really good possible chance we see him against the Patriots. Fingers crossed, being overly optimistic here, but it looks like he's recovering pretty good. And knowing JK, that dude is a super, super cool dude, super mentally tough. He's been through injuries way worse than this, and he knows what recovery is going to be like. I hate to say it, but he's a veteran when it comes to getting injured, and he knows the exact remedies, the recoveries to be able to come back. But one thing I did want to say is, I don't know if it's Ben Herbert, I don't know if it's a couple others, but it seems like it's been since week 1, I feel like we have been one of the top teams of having the injury plague. We always have at least 4 or 5 guys that it hurts not them playing, that they do not play, or they're already on IR. I want to hear your opinions on that, if I'm just overthinking it, but it seems like a lot of these guys, at the end of the day, it's football, but it seems like a lot of these teams compared to us are staying a little more healthy compared to us, when we have a lot of key players getting injured. And a lot of the guys that are playing right now have been injured at one point in the season. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Don't know if we need to change something in the coaching staff with that, or if it's just inevitable.
Yeah. Well, first thing on JK, yeah, I saw the game he got injured. Yeah, he tried to come back. He even put a brace on his knee and was seeing if he could run with a brace. And yeah, so I agree. And in fact, I think he was asked, Harbaugh was asked in an interview about when they did put JK on IR. And Harbaugh, he keeps his cards very close to his chest when it comes to injuries and status and progress. But somebody asked, was it precautionary? And Harbaugh basically said, yeah, it was.
Probably Popper.
Yeah, probably Popper. and so I had reiterated that once or twice here on the pod. And I would assume, other podcasts would, it's such an important aspect of our offense. Other podcasts would have mentioned that as well. As far as injuries go, my God, I would say that the Chargers have been injury plagued pretty much as long as I've been watching them, especially in the more modern era. Since the Spanoses have owned the team, kind of before the air, after the Air Coryell era. There were injuries back then too, but I don't necessarily recall our teams being decimated like we've experienced in the more modern era. I will say it seems like this team, this coaching staff, has taken a different approach to handling injuries as we have seen with past regimes, and that may be a Harbaugh / Ben Herbert thing, where they're quicker to put a player on IR, knowing they can designate and bring them back. And so it seems like they're using that more than in the past. I honestly don't necessarily feel like there's any more injuries. I don't know if we could ever have really a team that's been more injured than us historically now, because we've historically been just injury plagued. But I think part of that, if I was a fan of another team and I watched them as closely as I watched this team, I might feel that way about the other team too, because everybody's getting injured. I mean, just go look at up and down the NFL and look at their rosters and look at their injury reports. And, it's hit or miss, but some teams are just decimated with injuries, way worse than we are, relatively speaking. I mean, I'm trying to think, have we had like a devastating injury this season where they're like out for the season that was a key critical,
Only Asante, but
yeah, and we really don't know the deal with Asante. And they may be looking at Asante right now going, look, we're not going to pay you the big bucks, dude. We got these 2 5th-round guys. And Christian Fulton's been playing pretty damn good, all things considered. I think he really has. He's been aggressive, and he's gotten, a couple aggressive plays have gotten penalties, but I'd much rather have that. I mean, look how KC's DBs play. I mean, they like mug people and don't get called. So, I mean, mug them till you get called and then back off a little bit,
Yeah.
So, like Christian.
Sorry to interrupt, but one thing I wanted to actually say was, Simi Fehoko. It was pretty ironic. So I was scrolling on TikTok and I was just thinking in my head, man, I miss Simi. Hopefully he can come back. And then, boom, a video of Simi pops up. It's his personal TikTok account where he's answering questions from that questionnaire on here. And they said, when are you going to play? And I don't know if Harbaugh likes this too much, but he was completely 100% transparent. This was a couple weeks ago, so we'll see. But he did say, I still can't bend my elbow more than this much. Until that, I'm trying my hardest to come back. So, hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's not looking too good. Hopefully he can come back in a playoff run. Give him 3 more games. That's 3 weeks. And then so hopefully he can come back and then be healthy. But I just wanted to put that out there because probably some fans were thinking, what happened to Simi Fehoko? Because he was doing pretty well, but he's very transparent on his TikTok. If you guys want to check that out, especially his Instagram, he always is being transparent about his injury and the recovery for his injury. He tore his elbow up worse than people thought, and he was just giving insight on that. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Yeah, interesting. And Simi had dropped off of my injury list, my radar screen. So I appreciate you mentioning him because he was contributing. I mean, he wasn't a huge contributor, but he had a couple really instrumental catches as well there earlier in the season. So it was a bummer to see him go down.
In fact, I think it was against the Broncos where he had that one where he absolutely mossed the dude, and probably one of the best catches I've ever seen. It was against, ironically, the Broncos who we play Thursday night. So
yeah, well, he won't be doing that this game. So speaking of the Broncos, let's get into the AFC West here a little bit. Chiefs won again, so they're 13-1. Mahomes got tweaked pretty bad. I don't know if you saw that replay. It was pretty awesome. And so he got hit low and bent back high, and I guess he tweaked his ankle, and they're saying he's week to week. If I was the Chiefs, I would rest him. They've already got their spot, so I would rest him. I don't know if they're for sure locked in at number 1 seed, but they've locked our division down. And as Mahomes goes, the Chiefs goes. Without Mahomes, they're toast. So I would err on the side of caution with him. But hey, Andy, you want to put him out there in harm's way, you just go right ahead. So they're 13-1. And we already talked about the Donkeys. They beat the Colts in very ugly fashion. So they're now 9-5. They are ahead of us in second for the AFC West, and they are now also ahead of us in the wild card hunt. It's the 6th seed. And then we're 8-6, 7th seed. And the Raiders, they're still 2-11. I think they had a bye week this week, right? So they're they're playing tonight.
They are playing tonight.
Yeah, because we're doing this on a Monday. We don't usually do this on a Monday, but it's a short week, so they're actually playing tonight. So I would assume they'll Raider.
Max Crosby's also out for the season due to getting a injury, a surgery. So
ankle surgery. I guess he roughed it out as long as he could. So I assume. But the Raiders are the Raiders, so I could see them winning out the rest of the season, just to screw up their chances at the number 1 pick. I mean, it is the Raiders, so they can't even lose, right? So they'll probably screw that up. I mean, it is the Raiders.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it on the division. We at least got to pick up one more game, but it'd be nice if we could win out all 3, but as a minimum 2. We at least need to get 2 out of these 3 games. But this one against the Donkeys, this would be huge. All right, last week's game predictions. They weren't pretty. We pretty much choked. we all picked the Chargers over Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay smoked us. So, yeah, if anything, that was horrible. we did not. I mean, on any given Sunday, even though I know you don't like that, Brendan, any given Sunday, anybody can beat anybody. But we didn't expect that type of beatdown. If they flipped the script and it was, 24-17 instead of 17-24, all right, you could go, okay, we, Justin threw a pick, or we had a fumble, or, they got a special teams touchdown on us or something. But a 40-burger, that's just and to get skunked 30-0 after we went up 17-10, that's just a complete collapse. So this week's game, short week in SoFi against the Donkeys. Do you want to go, or would you like me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right, you do it, man.
Alrighty, so I think it's going to be a big defensive game for the both of us. I just truly think so. I think it's going to be Broncos are going to keep being the Broncos, and we're going to want to just go steamhead, smash mouth football. Super bad taste in our mouths from putting a 40 bomb in. I think they're going to get redemption. With that being said, I'm going to say it's going to be 17-14 Chargers.
I definitely can feel that score.
Whether I know it's going to be the end score, I'm not sure, but that's going to be my prediction for the game.
Yeah, yeah. And when I had come up with my prediction for this game, as I was coming up with it, I'm like, man, I guarantee you, as we go through the pod and we're talking about everything, I'm going to want to change my mind on this because I'm a Chargers fan and I'm going to get hyped up that this was an anomaly and it's the Broncos and we'll get up for it. But I'm going to stick to what my original prediction was when I think I was in my more rational mind. I don't know. Maybe I'm in a more rational mind now, but I'm going to stick with what I originally thought, and we'll see how it goes. I picked the Broncos to beat us 24-17.
Interesting.
I don't like that pick, okay? I want us to win 24-17, okay? That's what I want. But like I said earlier in the pod, if I was Vance Joseph, I would blitz the living crap out of our offensive line right up the middle. And I would blitz us, and I would blitz us, and I would blitz us. You know Justin's not going to be able to get out of the way. He's not going to be able to run. So if they get through the line, he's toast. That's our Achilles heel. It's been exposed. And by the way, Tampa wasn't the first one to expose this. We've been talking about this for weeks, okay? So it's a known deal. Bowles was just very effective because he had a guy like Vitavea to get in there and just reap havoc in the middle of our offensive line. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. It's not the end of our season if we lose this game. Like I said, we still get a great shot at getting that 7th seed, which gives us a better shot, by the way, of meeting up with KC if we can get out of the wild card round. But until our offense proves me wrong at this point, unless our defense stops the Broncos and also puts points on the board, then with Justin being hobbled and our line being a liability in the middle, our tackles are awesome. Our tackles are just insanely good, but we need similar talent on the inside, and we don't have it. So it pains me. It absolutely pains me to pick against the Chargers. That's why I haven't picked against them all season. But Vance Joseph's a good defensive coordinator. And he, by the way, he's a very aggressive defensive coordinator, and it is a division game. And they want to get in the playoffs really bad too. And they know that if they lose that game to us, then they lose the head-to-head. So they're going to be as motivated as can be. And so I think their defense is going to come to play. Yeah. Even if their offense can't put up a bunch on us, it's going to come down to, can our offense outscore their offense, right? Their offense against our defense versus ours against them. And right now, I would say their offense might have a better chance against our defense than our offense has against theirs. So I know I'm trying to justify picking against my boys. And look, I mean, I'm all color coordinated in my powders, but shit, man, that Tampa Bay game hurt really bad. And so I may be picking against our boys because I'm still licking my wounds on that one.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Personally, for me, I think I just did that because, trying to be optimistic there, but seems like we always go 1-1 with the Broncos. Very rarely we sweep them. And also, like you said, you brought up a good point. Stats-wise, they got a better offense and defense now. Stat-wise, coming into Week 16. Just in the general offense and defense. So hopefully Jesse Minter can pull one out of his butt and be the Jesse Minter we saw the rest of the season and the last previous games. And hopefully Greg Roman realizes that he needs to, with the weapons he has, he needs to switch up something, maybe get some different cool plays into it and get something going. Because like I said earlier on, this is a completely different Broncos team that we're facing. This is a completely different team. They have turned it up so much more. They're finding their identity. So is it winnable? In my opinion, 100%. We just have to play some perfect ball. Not even 4 quarters, at least 3, but we cannot make any major mistakes because compared to their game last week, they only won based off of the Colts offense making some really, really major mistakes. So if we can prevent that and just play some consistent football, we will be all right.
Well, maybe our defense will score. That would be huge. Scoop and score. Tarheeb gets a pick 6. That would be huge. But, the other reason I did pick against our boys that you mentioned that I didn't was it is a division game, and we won the first one. I don't know. Denver's a pretty good team now. Sean Payton's starting to earn that big fat salary he got from the Walton family, but it is hard to sweep a division rival. It is. Now, going forward, as this team continues to get remade and, next season, depending on what moves we make, which I'm already optimistic about, I might have an entirely different feeling and think we sweep the entire division, including KC. But as it's sitting right now, again, I'm still stinging from how bad we got shellacked by Tampa Bay, and I'm going, I don't see it. Denver's got a really good defense, and they're going to be coming after us. But if our defense is good too, this is an anomaly game for them. So prove me wrong, guys. That's prove me wrong. I would love to be totally wrong on this, but we're not giving out prizes this season. Maybe next season we'll start giving out prizes for each week who's winning and losing these game predictions, but we're not doing that. This is a trial run in season 1 of ChargersCast, right? So no harm, no foul if you're wrong, other than bragging rights on the next pod. But please prove me wrong. I would love to be completely wrong about this, but I'm thinking the Donkeys have better than a 50-50 chance of beating us. So
yeah, very valid response as well.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the pod, man. You got anything, last thoughts before we wrap this puppy up and put a bow on it?
Yeah, last thing, I already said this earlier. Bolt fan, we got to stick with our team. Most of you guys have been fans for 20 plus years, or at least all your life. You've been down this road before. You should not be surprised how some of these games end. So you just got to stick with them. Harbaugh's got a plan. He's not just becoming a coach of the Chargers because he just wants to and he thinks it's going to be fun. He has a plan and it's going to work. Maybe not this year. Like I said, name one team that completely restarted their season and won a Super Bowl. 0, maybe 1, and it's an anomaly. So just stay with us all. Stay with the pod. Stay with the Chargers. And I think it's going to be a good end of the season and a good season next year for sure.
Yeah, that's a good message. I mean, we historically have 2 types of fans. We've got those truly hardcore, die-hard fans that just bleed Charger blue, whether it's Navy in the old days or powder now. But then we've always had those fair-weathered ones too, which when they're winning, they're there, and when they're losing, they're either completely gone or they're talking crap. And, it comes with the territory. But for those who are really, for those guys who connect with the Chargers and, you truly are a diehard Chargers fan, look, we're playing with house money, man. Okay? Enjoy this. After last season and the season before and the season before and the season before, all right? This is good. The direction this team's going. So that's a great message, Brennan, is stick by our boys. They need it, and it's good for us. The future's very, very bright for this team. But this team, I think, is kind of peaked as far as what their potential is. Doesn't mean we're not going to make the playoffs, and anything can happen when you do make the playoffs. So stick with the team, wish for the best, and don't get too down. If we don't win the Super Bowl this season, let's get into the playoffs and see if we can do any damage. To me, that's super fun. If we can take down a team or two, especially if we can get past the wild card week and get a third game against the Chiefs, that's going to be a fun game, man. I mean, that could be our Super Bowl this season is getting a third game against the Chiefs in the playoffs. So hang in there, guys. Great message, Brennan. Yeah, it's good to be a Chargers fan. The future is bright. So with that, that's another episode of ChargersCast. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us and talking ball about the Chargers. And yeah, that was a tough loss. And that's what we're here for as Chargers fans, to get together and kind of, commiserate and talk about the wins and also talk about these losses. So appreciate you guys being here. Leave us some feedback down in the comments. Hopefully you've already subscribed to us. If you haven't, though, do so. But yeah, please leave some comments for us. We love getting your comments. And with that, Brennan, it's you and I this week. We don't have Andrew with us. We got holidays coming up, so I think he was traveling or something. But you know the drill, man. Despite this ass kicking we just took, who's got it better than us?
Nobody.
Nobody, baby. All right, man. You guys be good. We'll see you next week. Go Bolts.
4 seconds left in the game, but this is likely the final play that matters. End zone wide open. What a night for Mike Williams. And the Chargers have their first lead of the night.
Hi, I'm Kirk Brewer, the creator and host of ChargersCast. I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of ChargersCast. We really appreciate you engaging with the podcast. When I created ChargersCast, it was intended to be a podcast about everything Los Angeles Chargers from a fan perspective. It's by fans and for fans. So it's for you, and we really appreciate you being here. If you haven't done so already, please go down below, leave a comment, give us some feedback. We really love to hear from you. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and click the little bell so that you get notifications when new content drops. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to ChargersCast. And who's got it better than us? Nobody.